Hi everyone, it's my honor and pleasure to welcome all of you to this inline sessions of the Eight Heroes Global Forums. Today we are gathered here to delve into the impactful work and collaborative spirit that defines Next Indonesia and Puska Muda, also UNICEF, as part of a team to uh, one of the collaborative project in Papua, one of province in Indonesia. First and foremost, I would like to extend our deep gratitude to Eight Heroes for providing this a good, very good platforms. Yeah, you already support us, enable us to share our journey and initiative with the global audience, fostering and collective drive towards social impact and sustainable development activity in Indonesia. And yeah, uh, Nice Indonesia is part of these sessions dedicated to nurturing local economic development, promoting sustainable development, environment practices, investing in educational programs, especially for empower communities across Indonesia. Our commitment is should be mirrored by our organizations, uh, our mother institutions, Next Global, to uh, bring us access to global, yeah, which amplifies the efforts international scales. Together, we strive to create a positive ripple effect that transcends borders, uplift lives. Um, we also want to say thanks for our sister organizations, Nice Kyrgyzstan, giving us the opportunity to share our experiencing one of our journey project implemented in Indonesia. Yeah, I hope that decisions we will explore more about the Freddy's initiative, especially in our project in Papua, together with Puska Muda and UNICEF Indonesia. We hope that this is would be inspire and engage all of us, fostering discussion and lead actionable insight and future cooperation in the future. Thank you once again, Eight Heroes, Next Kyrgyzstan, and all of you. Yeah, let's make decisions memorable and impactful. So maybe I would like to also introduce about Nice Indonesia. Nice Indonesia is one of a social business entity establishing in Indonesia since 2018. We are committed to contributing for Indonesia, especially in the national social development by optimizing our business scale, business process. We are focused about to support and strengthening the local communities in the areas education, economic, and sustainable development. Our initiative have provided us with the numerous opportunity and valuable experience collaborating with the various domestic and even international organizations, Eight Heroes. So we also firmly believe that our collaboration with stakeholders, national or international, and recognizing some important point for achieving our goals to giving impact for our society, especially in Indonesia and also in Southeast Asia regions. Um, yeah, before that's maybe just like introduce about the nice Indonesia and about the session. Then now I would like to uh, introduce our speakers before we dive into our main discussions. It's I think should be my privilege to introduce our esteemed speakers here. Yeah, and each of them brings wealth knowledge, experience, and passion for social impact, sustainable development, and community development through under education programs. First, we have Mr. Dery Fahrizal Ulum. Thank you so much to attend here. Yeah, there is dedicated UNICEF officer based in Papua, Indonesia, with the robust background in education and community development. His extensive experience in managing and executing projects, many projects that drive positive change has made a significant impact in the region, Papua, as well as all of Indonesia. Dairy also excels in creating, implementing strategy that promotes sustainable and economic growth. And his collaboration with various stakeholders has been instrumental in enhancing education programs, supporting local economic development, especially in Papua, and implementing also the various project in sustainable development management practice. And the next, we also have Dr. Rizalwan Habdilubis. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Rizalwan. And he's a renowned expert in sustainable development. Dr. Rizalwan has been pivotal in driving innovative solutions for education, environment, and economic challenge in Indonesia. His research and study, also practical approach, have contributed significantly to the field, making him the key figure in sustainable development agenda in Indonesia. And also, today we also have Miss Angela Torim Tubun. Miss Angela, thank you so much for joining us. She is a passionate advocate for education, social impact, and environmental sustainability. Angela has worked a lot of work focusing on empowering community through the education and sustainable practices, especially in Papua, Indonesia. Her dedication and innovative approaches have led to the meaningful change and advancement in community he served. So, lastly, myself, Dasril Guntara, as CEO of NICE Indonesia, I will take the opportunity as host here, moderate the discussions. I'm very confident that with all of speakers' insights and experience will inspire all of us, engage us. So thank you so much for joining us, and let's give warm welcome to our speakers. So let's start our discussions with the first presentations from our first speakers, Mr. Dery Fahrizalul. The time is yours.
Thank you, Dasrils, and also Ed Heroes, and fellow partner of development partners in Indonesia, particularly NICE Indonesia in affiliations with Puska Muda, and I know also appreciate Ruang Berbagi for sharing the stage here for stories from Indonesia, particularly Papua, eastern part of Indonesia. So let me share my screen on behalf of the presentation. So just to give you some context. So this is one of the beautiful scenery, one of the tourism sites in Indonesia, particularly in Papua. And I think some, if not most of you, already know the place. This is the heaven for all divers over the world, and also very, very known with its beautiful scenery. So the name of the place is Raja Ampat, or Four Kings in English translations. So just Google it and everyone can see it. The beauty of Raja Ampat that take place in Papua. Only one out of many pearls, hidden germs in Papua. But along this place also we have some of the rigorous sad situations. If you may seen also some of these classroom settings in Indonesia or any developing countries. So teachers, students can sit comfortably on their chair or perhaps on the floor, and they have many access to books, and also they have chairs, they have tables, they have quality teachers to teach the students. But unfortunately in Papua we still have some of these on the left side, classroom situations. And I believe Puska Muda NICE also will encounter this in West Papua and Southwest Papua, where they will work in the future years with UNICEF Indonesia. So some of the students cannot have the privilege, or sitting on a chair, even they don't have any luxury on sitting on the floor, So we talk now about the quality educations. So that's connected in terms of access, and then resources, be it human resources, financial resources, infrastructures, but also quality supervisions, assurance from the relevant stakeholders, that include any parties in charge, yeah, on making decisions. So this is Papua. So what we would like to advocate and support is to bring these left situations to become like on the right situations, yeah. So not only in terms of infrastructures, but also quality of the human resources, how to teach, yeah, how to deliver the improvement of quality learning to students in Papua. So, and UNICEF, to this context, just want to give you some brief explanations what we are doing, yeah, in Papua provinces. Now Papua consists of not only two, yeah, but 6 provinces. So particularly in supporting SDG 4, quality educations, yeah, ensuring inclusive and equitable quality educations for all. So just to give you explanation on the pictures, we are supporting here early childhood educations, and then also primary schools and adolescents, yeah, so junior high schools. So this is related to how we ensures the children, yeah, from the early grade to toward their adolescence, ready to work, ready to live, ready to take decisions for themselves, yeah, in order to thrive during their life long opportunities. So this is the challenges, however, yeah, in Papua, just like in some pictures. And to give you also an explanation here, this is not a high resolution pictures taken by professionals, but taken by our own mobile phones, yeah, during our field trip. So this is just the real conditions. When we talk about what is it in some region, yeah, or global, when we talk about digitalizations, life skills, yeah, technology, all of the things. But in Papua, we still uh, doing our work in foundational skills, yeah, foundational learnings, which are literacy and numeracy, yeah, how to teach them to read, because this is something that is we still like behind. We will show you some data later, yeah, and this is the classroom situations, and this is access to schools. And this is one of the better conditions, yeah, and among all, comparing to some of the schools also that maybe in this opportunity we cannot show you all, yeah, but this is just a sample, yeah, representing some of the schools in Papua. And I believe Angela also can tell you more, yeah, about the experience. But how this is so important, yeah, to work for Papua. Just very quick explanations, because the data told us early childhood educations we only have 35.2% enrollment rate, yeah, for early childhood educations before they create new provinces in Papua. So it was 2012, yeah, 0.7, previously 10.5. So it means like only, like 1 out of 3, yeah, children, yeah, enroll in early childhood education, or even previously it was like 1 out of 10 enrolled in early childhood educations. And the stunting prevalence for toddlers in Indonesia is still high, where Papua contributed it also quite high, yeah. And we talk about the national coverage of birth certificate ownership, it's still low in Papua, and also the institutional situation analysis. So out of these 70,000, yeah, villages across Indonesia, only 17 that have 17,000 villages do not have any early childhood education units. So there is still very huge gaps, yeah, in order to access the early childhood educations. When we talk about how important early childhood education is, you can see from the pictures, yeah, this is the scan of 3-year-old children's brain, yeah, when they have quite good attentions from the parents caregiver, so considered as normal, yeah, but they don't have any attention, like extreme neglections, their brain cannot develop functionality, yeah, functionally. And this is also one of the neuron, yeah, uh, for from children, yeah, during the child's birth, and then 7 years of age and 15 years of age. So the more children have sense of, what is it, sensory play, yeah, and attention from the adults, from the caregiver, from the teachers, they can develop optimally, yeah. Imagines when we talk about not only Papuan children, but all children that do not have access, yeah, and opportunity to all of that, so they cannot develop optimally compared to the others. And how we can tell about the future Indonesian, yeah, future generations of the world, if they cannot develop functionally, yeah, growth and develop functionally optimally. And the data also told us investing in early childhood is very important. So James Heckman, the Nobel Prize winners, yeah, in economics, saying that when we invest in early childhood, so 0 to 8 years old, it contributes to 7 to 10% return on investment, yeah, compared to investment in the adult. So you don't have to invest later on to your therapy, yeah, during adolescence, to juvenile justice, because some of the children or adolescents also have risk, yeah, to the criminal activities, harmful practices, and else. So this is how important investing in earliest years as possible, yeah, because the attentions that we should give more is during the early childhood to primary schools, whereas the people, yeah, the adolescents, children, young people would have their own decisions to take on specific job training or vocational, yeah, during their own growing up, yeah, to become an adult. So this is you can see the percentage there, yeah, based on research, but this is just to give you context that investing in early childhood is very very important, comparing to those adulthood, yeah, positions. Not saying that it's not important, but it is very important investing in early childhood. So just to very brief also, what are we doing in Papua? So this is the phase of educations, yeah, from the early childhood development. So some of the place that we took pilot in Sorong, Raja Ampat, Southwest Papua from 2019 until now. We also strengthen, yeah, the early grade learning, so literacy, numeracy, also the aspect of inclusive educations in some of these area, yeah, rural and remote area initiative, life skill educations for adolescents, but also support of out of school children to learning, including education in emergencies. So all of this is important to bring systemic approach, yeah, strengthen the system of educations, not only providing service only to one or two specific level of education or schools, but to strengthen also government, yeah. So we are working with government, for government, and ultimately of course for children's, yeah, impacted to specific areas. And if you look at the map of Papua, this is the 6 provinces of Papua. So this is where we are in previous phase, yeah. And in the current phase, 2024 to 2026, we're also working with you, yeah, Puska Muda Nice Indonesia, to intervene West Papua and Southwest Papua, yeah. But in the different areas here, we also work. Our modality is to work with implementing partner, NGOs, and local government. So to tackle all of these specific issues, yeah, out of school children, early childhood, foundational skills, and education in emergency. As you may aware, also some of this area is prone to disaster, be it natural disasters, but also social conflict. Yeah, this is very important to give attentions. So what exactly we did during our intervention in students' literacy skills, foundational learning, it is important to train teachers. Yeah, they are the frontliners, yeah, to interact with the parents and students. So we provide them with some of our modules, materials, contextualized materials that is like what is it, local friendly in term of the languages and context, yeah, to Papuan context. Technical assistance, so it is not enough just provide them like 7 days, 14 days of training, but every day our facilitators, yeah, our NGOs facilitators come to schools to provide technical assistance, ask about what do you have in difficulties in the classroom, do you have any challenges during dealing with student with disability, for example, yeah, how to give positive discipline, yeah, comparing to hitting the students, yeah, or punish the students using physical punishment and else, yeah. Assessment also, so we did baseline and line, provision of relevant reading materials, you know, our and child friendly reading corners, yeah. It is important to procure this for Papua. Why? Because most of our books, yeah, published in Indonesia also need to be adjusted to Papuan context. Imagine Papuan remote area students reading stories about, oh, this is train stations, while we don't have train station in Papua, yeah. So some things that are very relevant, culturally contextualized in their day-to-day life, yeah. So pig breeding, how to create local food called papeda, yeah, how to fish and also something like that. Engage with the community and also policy advocacy, yeah. We need budget from government, budget for educations, budget that is targeted for building all of this capacity. And it's similar with ECD. Investing in education, health, nutrition, well-being, parenting, protection through training. So we train the ECD trainers and teachers. We provide continuous mentoring for each targeted ECE units, yeah, similar with the primary schools, and also advocate for budgeting from district or cities, yeah, for regular training and mentoring. They have this standard. So why this is important? We're not a charity based, yeah, approach, charity based organizations, but this is a partner, yeah, development partner for government. This is essential to build capacity and advocate for continuous and sustainable approach, yeah. I think some of the last slide, yeah. So this is our, I think all of our questions, those who work for or in Papua, yeah, two big questions. How exactly to advocate in Papua with its bureaucracy, with its special autonomy, with its, because this is eastern part, specific context, yeah, cultural context. And the second question is, what is the role of community leaders, tokoh adat, ya? So in Indonesia, we have this term of satu tungku tiga batu, ya, or there is three levels of advocacy in Papua. So first is with government, second is with religious actors, particularly Catholic and Christian, ya, in Papua. They have this huge denomination of church, and the third is community leaders. So government, religions, and community leaders. As you may aware, yeah, the Papua New Guinea is the largest local language speakers in the world, and Papua is the largest local languages speakers in Indonesia. So you combine Papua New Guinea and Papua, they both the local languages speakers the largest in the world. Yeah. So this is one of the unique but also challenges, opportunities too, yeah, to work. I think the key acts to international actors, yeah. I think the first one is, this is very helpful if we can advocate, yeah, support in promoting palette for scale from Papua to similar contexts, regionally and globally. As I mentioned before, perhaps this context can be also applied in Papua New Guinea, Timor Leste, or else, yeah, those or Africa, yeah. The indigeneity is important in Papua, indigenous context. Gets, yeah, gender, disability, and social inclusions, because they have multicultural. Second one is support multilingual learning, yeah, and communication strategies. I don't know, like we often talk in Indonesia, waktu Indonesia Barat, waktu Indonesia Timur. Maybe waktunya Indonesia Timur. This is the time for Eastern Indonesia to shine, yeah. Something like that. This is very important, yeah. Implementation of research and documentations would be important. The forum like Ed Heroes is one of the platform that can communicate our problem, but also best practices. Proportional teacher distributions, exchange of quality teachers, yeah, perhaps those of have high standard of teaching and have huge experience in teaching can also help Papuan context, yeah, to train the teachers here. And recruitment, yeah, a developing program to strengthen train local teacher for areas with high absenteeism in Papua, because some of us live in highland. It's very quite hard to access, so it would be very benefit, yeah, if there are some actors also that can help us on those hard to reach area, yeah. I think that's all the key takeaways, key acts for international actors, but very very short stories from Papua, yeah, to you all. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Derry, for your presentation. Is like I thank you for your presentation. It makes me like go to again to the Papua context, and I think this is very important for all of us, especially for everybody attending our sessions. Papua actually is part of Indonesian province, and uh, I think it's becoming the youngest, yeah, province in Indonesia, and with a lot of unique culture and livelihood there, and socio-economic situations. And we are glad, yeah, to become of the collaboration of UNICEF, especially UNICEF Papua, that having a lot of great working in Papua to support the Papua, especially for education, because this is very related about our discussion for the Pacific of heritage culture. Another perspective we already hear from the practically activity from the UNICEF and also from the Ruang Berbagi dan Nawa, maybe we can hear together perspective not only about the practical but also for the academic perspective through presentation from Dr. Rizawans. So, Dr. Rizawans, the time is yours.
Yeah. Before I present this material, I have clarification. Dasril and I right now is not in Papua. We are record this discussion from Java, different island with Papua. Papua, like Derry said, is located eastern of Indonesia. So we have 2 hours time difference between Papua and Jakarta. Yeah. So yeah, yeah, yes, yeah, yes, yeah. So we have time different right now. Papua is 2 hours ahead from Jakarta. So it makes me a little bit awkward to tell story about Papua because I'm not in Papua right now. Anyway, yeah, but this is uh, part of our appreciation, yeah, to UNICEF and also Angela activity. So we want to share what we will do in the future with UNICEF and also Angela organization. Yeah, let me explain about the background. Yeah, yeah. As we know, eastern in Papua as the eastern region in Indonesia is still lagging behind. Yeah, why? Because many economic political aspect. Yeah, lay on the preference of policy in Indonesia to give more to Papua. Yeah. So I think what UNICEF did, yeah, what UNICEF has been done in Papua should be get big appreciation, yeah, because they try to fill the gap, yeah, to fill it. Yes, sorry. Okay, yeah, yeah, and as Angela presented before, that there is so many indigenous communities, yeah, in Papua. Yeah, like Nasril said, there is so many tribes, yeah, so many languages, yeah, like Derry said also, yeah. So yeah, they need assistance because some of them still live in the jungle or live by the forest, yeah, and they still try to hunt livestock. Yeah, they don't have livestock. Yeah, they have to hunt to the forest. Yeah, some of them. Yeah, so this is very real situation in Papua. And the next point is about the welfare of indigenous communities. Yeah, related to how they live, how they uh, daily life. Yeah, what they eat, what they use for the clothes. Yeah, I think it's issue of welfare for indigenous community. And the last ones, yeah, the background is about the child welfare. Yeah, I'm not trying to explain more because Derry already explained about this context before. And this is the eye opener data, yeah, related to the background. Uh, yeah, I got the number, yeah, from one source. There is 255 tribes. Yeah, I'm not sure is it really accurate or not. Yeah, but more than 100 is many. Yeah, so many tribes there, and then more than of more than 620,000 thousand. Yeah, I think it's quite wrong in the written. Yeah, 620,000. Yeah, not attend school. Yeah, or do not complete their education. Derry already said this before also. And then the issue about infrastructure constraint, yeah, because there is so many place that is not connected by road, yeah, right now. So, for instance, from Angela Place, want to go to from Manokwari, want to go to Sorong, yeah. Previously, they are in the same province. Right now, Manokwari and Sorong is different province, but there is no good road to connect between Manokwari and Sorong with distance. I think 3,000. Oh, no, 300 or 400 kilometers. Yeah. And then the last point is about armed conflict. This is I need to clarify. Yeah, some place of Papua is still facing armed conflict. Yeah, between military and civilian. But I have to clarify that there is not all Papua is full of conflict. Yeah, there is only small area. Yeah, still. Still has armed conflict, yeah, between military and civilian. So yeah, this issue probably influence many effort to enforce the child welfare in Papua. Yeah. Okay, I want to share you that we are now focusing on several places in Papua. This visual actually is not a real map of Papua. This is a graphic, yeah, of Papua, not the real Papua. Yeah, previously from 2022 until 2023, we have collaborated with UNICEF, yeah, in 4 area, yeah, in Wamena, in the mountain area, yeah. This area is actually it's the conflict area, yeah. And then at Nabire, and then in Supiori and Biak, yeah. For this year until 2026, yeah, we have another program focused on early child development and also basic literacy for school program like Angela presented before. Yeah, we're focusing on 2 area in Tambrau and also in Arfak Mountain. Yeah, yeah. What is the expected impact for this program? Yeah, for this year until 2026. First is early child education for indigenous community. Yeah, the number is not quite big, but this is significant number. Yeah, 600 children within the program during the period. Yeah, so yeah, I agree that this is not a so big number, but yeah, this is a nice number to get, yeah, for right now, yeah, because we have limited time, only 30 months of programs for this. And the second one is of course the teacher capacity, yeah, like Angela presented before, that most of teachers needs to modify the techniques, the method to deliver their material, their basic literacy material to the children. Yeah. So this is important to upgrade the teacher capacity in suburb or no in the remote area, yeah, in Papua. And then the third one is the providing reading corner. Yeah, we learned from Angela presentation that this is very good vehicle, yeah, for us to introduce how to read to the early child groups, yeah, early child groups, yeah. So we focus to targeted 12 basic schools in Tambrau and also 12 basic schools in Arfak Mountain. And then related to Derry presentation before, local regulation advocation is very important, yeah, to make sure the sustainability by providing local budget allocation. Yeah. So we have to assist, yeah, the local government to make sure that they provide local budget allocation for early child development, yeah, in Tambrau and Arfak mountain area. I think this is a model, yeah, the methodology, yeah, for the program. We focus the first one for capacity building, and the second one is technical assistance, and the last one is for policy advocacy. And we believe those three outputs or outcomes, yeah, should be wrapped up by knowledge, good knowledge management. So this is not only well done program, but also we can get the lesson learned from the program and share it to others, donors or others partners, yeah, in national level or also international level. Yeah, I think this is the innovation that we try to introduce by Early Child Development Program. Yeah, we involve the local champions. Yeah, Angela has introduced us with LAMEC. Yeah, LAMEC is one of initiator for the literacy activity at Arfak Mountain. Right now, LAMEC has elected as the senator in Jakarta. So he will leave Papua and live in Jakarta because his new roles as a senator. And then our another innovation is also working with wider local stakeholders, yeah, yeah, including using this platform right now with Adheros to sharing our plan and our activity. Yeah. And we also have innovation to do community-centered approach. Yeah, we try to adapt what Angela did. Yeah, in several places in yeah, in the Arfak area. And then the last one is knowledge management production. I think it's too technical to explain about monitoring evaluation. Nah, this is the last one. Yeah, yeah. Indeed, we need this program sustained for the future. Yeah. So we are open for networking with others. So thank you again for NHIVOS, yeah, because we can share this to broad network around the world. Yeah. And also another opportunity for collaboration for this activity is knowledge management. Yeah, yeah, we can share some knowledge product, short video, or maybe the infographic. Yeah, if some partners around the world need to know about what we have been done. Yeah. And the last one is financing. Yeah, because as I said before, Papua is very far away from Jakarta. Yeah, yeah, but we still committed, yeah, to get involved with the program because we believe that our involvement is important and needed for the children of Papua. I think that's all for me. Uh, Back to you, Dasril. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Dr. Isalwan, for your presentations. I little bit want to spotlight about the knowledge management. I think that's very important with and very relevant about with our discussions and with the topic in this global forum about the preserving of heritage culture. I think this is the best way, especially for every initiative, community development or community practices that already done, a great done, yeah, by Derry with the UNICEF teams and Angela with the Ruang Berbagi teams. That's very good, and I hope that this is will be our maybe looks like a standardized for implementing to support the community level, yeah, to make sure the best way that we have done it will be keep, yeah, and will be tell for the next actions to making improve, especially to make sure uh, the initiative will be giving positive feedback for the, especially for the preserving about the heritage culture. And okay, let's maybe we can discuss. I actually have some notes, yeah, from the first presentations. So I will go to the first my question actually to Derry, according about yeah, I believe UNICEF as one of UN agencies that a lot of good initiatives in every country like in Indonesia and especially in Papua. So, how many a big potential supported or international supported to contribute the programs that you did in Papua so far?
Yeah, just want to emphasize and thank you again for the opportunity. Yeah, so I think as one of the international organizations, yeah, existing in Papua, in UNICEF, um, the potential, yeah, for international support, more international support for programs in Papua is significant. Yeah, so particularly through organizations that have robust international networks. Yeah, this network, like UNICEF and the others development partners, enable partnerships and collaborations, yeah, with governments, NGOs like NICE, Ruang Berbagi, Puska Muda, and other stakeholders worldwide, yeah, facilitating the mobilization of resources, funding, yeah, money, expertise, and advocacy efforts, yeah. So this is very important, and international support can play a crucial role in addressing challenges faced by children in Papua, not only education, yeah, in health, protections, well-being, and ensuring the sustainable development. It is measurable, and having positive impacts on local communities. And additionally, moreover, the presence of international organizations helps to draw attention, yeah, raise awareness about the unique issues faced by Papua children, drawing global attention and resources to these challenges. Like information shared by Parisalwan, yeah, it is perhaps uncommonly, yeah, found by people at the global level. Even like people heard about Papua. Is it part of Indonesia? Yes, it is. Papua New Guinea is different country, yeah. So something like that. It is sometimes those awareness also, yeah, totally different. Should be elaborated, yeah, at the global level particularly, yeah. And West Papua is the name of province, yeah. So Papua, West Papua is name of province in Indonesia. So information like this is very important to attract attentions as well. So yeah, only on the conclusion, yeah, the collaboration between international bodies, local entities is sensing a share of responsibility, yeah, and global solidarity. So this is important for well-being of children in Papua, building capacity of local CSOs, yeah. What's more about the synergy between local CSOs, international CSOs, and stakeholders to create comprehensive support, yeah, for children. So this is to ensure that they have access to the opportunities, information, resources necessary, yeah, for a brighter future of the children. Like, when we talk more about the scholarship opportunities, working opportunities for Papuan children, exchange to different province, different countries, that's more concrete, yeah, to be translated into opportunities for children. Yeah, I think that's my first comment overall. Yeah.
Okay, but what about the challenge? I mean, like the obstacle, especially for make sure we keep means like the heritage of culture, especially for the Papua, because Papua so unique in Indonesia. When we Papua is ethnic in Indonesia, so how can like what you done so far in Papua, giving means like contributions, participation from the Dewan Adat, or what the in English, yeah, it's like the council, yeah, the tribe council also become a stakeholder in terms of the participation in the program, or what kind of the model participation to make sure the tribe community also support the good in your initiative.
Yes, I think that's one of this first step, yeah, among all, yeah. So what we called about the fostering, developing cultural sensitivity and understanding, yeah. So we have diverse cultures. Papua is home, yeah, to numerous indigenous groups, yeah. So each with unique customs, languages, traditions, yeah.
Yeah.
So ensuring this cultural sensitivity requires deep understanding and respect, yeah. So partnering with Dewan Adat, yeah, indigenous councils, that's one of the first step among all, yeah. So we sign the letter of intent, yeah, partnership, UNICEF and
wow.
and indigenous councils. This is to build trust, build network, yeah, with local communities. This is crucial, yeah.
Of course.
So UNICEF must engage, yeah, in meaningful dialogue, build our program with them, yeah, before the implementation, and partnership, yeah, with indigenous leaders to ensure that interventions are respectful, yeah, and supportive of cultural practices. So in my presentation, for example, so contextualizing reading materials is one of the implementation. So we cannot only use Bahasa Indonesia, but also mother's tongue languages, yeah, local languages. That's also practice that we've been practices with Puska Muda previously, yeah, with Kampung PO program, is partnering with indigenous council. But the other point I want to make is understanding the political and social dynamics, yeah. Local government here, the social issues,
Yeah.
Pariswal already presented, but also adding to poverty, yeah. Poverty and education is essential
Yes, especially
for
in Papua.
protections of the heritage. Yeah, because this is intersect, yeah, with cultural preservation efforts, require holistic approach. But our part here is to strengthen the education system, yeah. So because we cannot touch upon infrastructure, for example, yeah, building a building, yeah, but when we talk about the building here, the human capacity, that's where we can allocate our resources. I think that's my feedback to that.
The next, I also want to discuss. I want to discuss with Dr. Isawang. Yeah, according how the way, yeah, for like maybe Nice Indonesia or others party can contribute in support to protect and preserve, yeah, the cultural heritage Papua through the education.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'm surprised. The last question for me is the hardest question to answer, actually.
Yeah, because you are doctor, so maybe you can giving the perspective not only about the practical but also for the from the academic side.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, we can start with capturing. Yeah, as you mentioned before, that knowledge management is a key word for this activity.
Yeah.
Yeah, once we involve in this Papua matters. Yeah, as a Nice Indonesia has obligation. Yeah, to share it to others. So we have to capture what is the success story, what is the lesson learned, yeah, from many experience, yeah, from Ruang Berbagi, from UNICEF, and also from our own project right now, yeah, with UNICEF. We have to capture it, try to produce as many as we can knowledge product, yeah, and share it to around the world. So this forum is very good to invite all of uh, all of organization, all of people who concerned with child welfare issue, and also for the cultural heritage issue. Yeah, to see what we have done, what we have been done in Papua. Yeah, with Ruang Berbagi and also with UNICEF. So I think this is the only thing that we can do to preserve, yeah, to contribute to preserve the heritage of Papua through developing of children in Papua. I think that's my comment. my responses.
Yeah, thank you. So, and also on behalf all of us to call collaboration from all, yeah, especially for everybody come to in this global forum session. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. As we come to the end of this insightful and inspiring sessions, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude, yeah, to all of you, yeah, for your session, for your explanation, your experience and engagement with us. Today, we have started share valuable experience, very good experience, and explore collaborative opportunity that will undoubtedly contribute for our collective goals, especially for our achievement about the sustainable development in Indonesia, social impact in what we have done in Papua, Indonesia.